Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Criterion Connection. I'm Wade,
And I'm Joe.
and we are here to conclude the Before trilogy with 2013's Before Midnight, starring Ethan Hawke as usual, starring Julie Delpy as usual, directed by Richard Linklater as usual. And we're here. It's they're in their 40s now, so let's see what kind of shenanigans they get into. This movie is sad.
I wouldn't say it's sad.
It's not really sad, but it feels like your heart's being ripped out of your chest sometimes.
Well, and I think again they address it in the dialogue of the movie
Yeah.
that this is real life and it's not a fairy tale. It's not going to be sunshine and roses all the time.
Yes.
And I really respect the movie for going into that part of the arc.
Yeah. It felt like it was necessary. We start off like with this is the first time I actually see Ethan like it's a different ending because it's more about Ethan's or Jesse's relationship with Hank or Henry, and he's like feeling rough. But he has his own family now with Celine, so it's like he's torn between two different worlds. Uh, Basically, the movie is he kind of wants it both, but it's not as simple as that.
Right.
Uh,
It's
we
like I was saying, this is real life kind of movie.
yeah.
It's like you've got two things you want, but unfortunately at the moment there are so many circumstances that prevent you from having both,
Yeah.
which would be the optimal thing.
Yeah, and we all know we've learned that Jesse's ex-wife is not a big fan. Not a big fan.
No,
No. And then we basically they're in Greece, right? Yeah, they're in Greece.
it's a vacation,
Yeah.
and he was invited by the Englishman Patrick, who lives in Greece, and basically was invited to stay with them for a few weeks. And along while they're there, they meet the young couple, which is Patrick's grandson, and what was her name, Anna?
Yeah, I think his name was Achilles.
Yeah, it's like Achilles or Achilles or whatever.
Yeah, it's Achilles, yeah.
And then the other couple, which was Stefano and Avrani or something like that.
Stefano was great.
Yeah, and you have Patrick and the older woman who's like a widow of his longtime best friend.
Yeah.
And each of them kind of what's great in this movie, and they've done it in the other two as well, is at the dinner you have everybody kind of exemplifying and having their own perspective on what love is.
Yeah.
And everybody is slightly different.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, this whole conversation is happening, Jesse and Celine are having issues.
Yeah, and it starts pretty early on. We see how hard it is for him to let his son go back to the United States, probably for 6 to 8 months.
Well, till Christmas.
Okay, that's about 6 months. I'm assuming because they're in the middle of summer.
Yeah.
And wishing he could be there with his son for more things, and it was something that was laid down in the last movie, as he didn't want to get divorced because he didn't want to be without his son.
Yeah.
And you see that he did. And that he is. And so that you could see kind of how much it wears on him, and it starts overflowing into his life with Celine and the girls.
Yeah. And Hank's okay with it. Hank's like, it's okay, Dad. It's fine.
And yeah, and that kind of represents a kid in that position who's just like, he doesn't know anything else. Like,
Yeah.
it's just the hand he was dealt, and that's how it is.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's a downer. But like when we first see Celine, and the interesting what makes this movie a little more different is the first time we see Celine and Jesse interact is they're pretty much frustrated at everything. Celine's like frustrated with she's in between jobs, she doesn't know what to do with her job. Uh and
Well,
you
I think
know,
she has an opportunity, but as we pointed out in the last movie, she's in what we are led to believe. It's kind of like a compromise of morals. We established in the last movie that she's anti-government. She's very um, against the way government is run, which makes sense given that time period. Um, and then now she's considering taking a government job because, a la like SLC Punk, she has this notion that you could do more damage from the inside than from the outside.
yeah.
And with him, the dialogue, the way Richard Linklater writes it allows Ethan Hawke's character to put forward, I think you would not be happy, or I don't think you would like that job. And you still have that lingering question, like, well, does he really believe that? Or is he trying to convince her to not take it for another reason?
Yeah.
And I think it's really well done.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. You
And then,
literally
and that leads into the point where she just brings up moving to Chicago. And as us, as the audience, it comes out of nowhere because he doesn't even bring it up.
yeah.
But, we're led to believe that they've had this conversation dozens of times every time Henry leaves.
Yes.
Which happen that scene that helps explain that happens later.
Yeah, and then they have the dinner, and then they walk around the town, which is very refreshing. It's very, very a before staple. They're walking around rambling.
In a European town, just
Yeah,
walking around talking.
and it's not really about. Sometimes they're talking about like their relationships. They're
Mm-hmm.
they're not talking about the kids. They're not it's they finally have a time for themselves, and it leads up to Stephanos gives them a hotel room, and
Well,
they're like, oh
that's what leads to the walk.
yes.
Because they Stephanos and his wife insist on letting Celine and Jesse have a night of their own while they're in Greece. So
Yeah.
they are going to babysit the kids, and they bought them a hotel room to spend the night and do whatever,
Yeah.
as Stephanos would like heavily imply.
Yeah. So they're doing whatever, and then they start to do whatever, and a phone call happens, and then it just starts crumbling. It just starts spiraling from there.
Well, it's these. I don't want to use the term, but it's these past frustrations. I'll use
Yes.
that. These past frustrations that each of them have been holding on to,
Yeah.
that all bubble to the surface at once.
Yeah.
And they're finally alone, which really gives them the opportunity to lay into each other, which most parents try not to fight in front of their kids.
Yeah.
So it obviously makes sense that if they hadn't had kids around, like, this fight could have been had earlier and been more moderate.
Yeah.
But because there's so much time and pressure built up, it really does explode. And you're led to believe that this is the end of, this relationship that we've been following for 2.5 movies.
Yeah.
And really, it's the unmasking of the fairy tale.
Yes.
Because, the first 2 movies are very fairy tale like. You have the chance encounter in the first movie, and they fall in love as young 20-year-olds. Then the second movie is they had that missed opportunity, but now they have a chance to rectify it.
Yeah.
And they do. And this movie is, well, it ain't like that all the time.
So it's
there's
like
real life. There's real problems. There's real discussions that need to be had.
So like Sunrise is like, this is what a relationship could be, and Sunset was more of like what should be, and Midnight's more what should I say? What it is, what the truth is.
Yeah. And there's a great line at the end again, and like they're able to use dialogue to really get the theme across without banging it over your head.
Yes.
But it's the part where after the blow up, Jesse comes and tries to talk to her.
Yeah.
And he does the whole charade of being a time traveler. But when she calls him out, she's like, "Stop! This isn't a game.
A joke. Yeah, it's not a joke.
This isn't the way it used to be." And he's like, "Well," and he drops it all, and he's like, "Well, fuck! Like, I don't know what I can do for you. You say you want the old Jesse, and I try and bring the old Jesse. He's still here."
Yeah.
He's like, "But what you don't understand is this is the true love, and this is your opportunity."
Yeah. This is real. He said it's real. That blow up, they are straight mean to each other. They just throw like real low blows.
Yeah.
Like you're not good and bad. Like, oh Jesus, Celine. Like both of them, it's like the argument is so.
Well, no, she doesn't say he's not good.
He's not adventurous.
He's sane all the time.
Yeah. He's monotonous.
Yeah. Which implies that she's getting bored.
Yeah, and in an argument,
I love his deflection. He's like, simple pleasures.
Yeah, like
it still hurts, man. It still hurts.
Like it's one of those things. Like it's not like it's anyone's fault. It's not like, oh, Celine's being more mean to Ethan Hawke. You know,
he pulls out the daggers himself.
It's kind of equal. He starts saying like, like really attacking her morals.
Yeah, he does. He does a couple of them. Like he tells her that she's crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like, nobody would last 6 months with you, which probably had happened before. Like none of her boyfriends lasted more than 6 months.
Yeah. And she's kind of resentful on him having like a successful book tour and always being gone while she's kind of sacrificing her dreams. So there's a lot of like resentment.
Yeah, and then there's him giving up his time with his son to be with her. And they each are... Where it stems from is it's this mutual guilt and this mutual resentment.
Yeah.
Each one kind of wishes they had the best of both worlds, but each one realizes that they are also the problem and the reason why it can't happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and then at the end, Celine walks back in and said she just drops the bomb, the nuclear bomb, and says, "I don't think I love you anymore," and leaves. And you're like, oh man,
right?
Why, Richard Linklater? Why you have to do this to me? And then I was like, oh my god, is it going to end right here? And I looked at the time, and there was another like 5 to 10 minutes. I was like, oh thank God. Because Linklater, I would not put it past him to end right there.
Yeah, and I think that would have been antithetical if he would have ended it there, because I think he points out that the anger may be there, the resentment may be there, but they still love each other.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the theme is, in real life, there's going to be these struggles and there's going to be, a loss of passion possibly, and, things like that. But, at the end of the day, love isn't always pretty. It's also messy.
Yeah. And another praise for Julie Depley, who does enough, like the thing like Sunset we talked about last week was her grabbing her stroking his hair.
Yeah, she's almost she's the queen of like nonverbal body language.
Like at the end when he's like kind of lays it out on her and he's sitting right next to her by the water.
Yeah, and she's crying but trying not to let him see that she's crying.
Yeah, and she also reaches to grab her purse like she's going to leave, but she stops herself. In that split second, she stops. And I think that's really great. And then she kind of like, I guess they reconcile on that, because now she's like, tell me about this time travel or whatever. But what I love about it is, I think I watched a, yeah, it was like a video of Ethan Hawke talking about his characters throughout his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he said something, I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. At the beginning, he said, like, at the beginning of Sunrise, you see that old elderly couple, the older couple, arguing. And they're kind of mocking him, like, we're not, why are they arguing? It's kind of awkward, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they turn into that couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's like, very.
There's a lot of symmetry in these movies.
But he does ask, like, hey, so, like, are you going to be like that in 40 years? In your 40s? So you're going to, it's kind of like, are we going to resent each other? Also, what the hell, what the hell, Jesse, eating your daughter's apple? What the hell, dude?
Hey, I'm not judging the man. Like, he was probably hungry, hadn't had anything.
He's depressed.
And the apple was there. The daughter was asleep.
And it's okay if you take the apple. It's okay if you take the apple, but you gotta take your kids to the ruins, man.
Also, they were asleep.
You can't just rob them of two things in like one fell swoop.
Yeah, good old like realistic parenting.
Yeah. So as a whole, I think the Before trilogy is great.
Same. I think this one leans on the other two more than the other two lean on each other. Like, if you watch this movie by itself, you probably would be like, man, this is a bummer. And like, why do I want to watch a real couple fight? Like,
yeah. There's talk of there's going to be a fourth one. There's talk because the next one will be probably 2022. In their 50s. Well, they'll be 50.
Well, yeah, but my question is like, A, what would the title be?
Well,
is it Before Twilight or?
Well, someone was saying, I think even Linklater said it'd probably say After.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yes. So Joe, I got the question for you. We've been waiting 3 episodes for it. Buy, rent/stream, or skip?
I would say the trilogy is a buy. And if I did break it up, it would be buy.
Yes.
Okay. In sync. But yeah, I mean, there's not one to skip. Watching them all enhances the experience of the other ones. Whereas, like in other trilogies, you can watch like one and be satisfied and just not watch the others. But I think this one, you're kind of duty bound to watch them all if you've only seen one of them.
Yes. I am also in the buy situation. I was going to buy it for the Barnes & Noble sale, but they sold out online. I was like,
It's because of us, man. We hyped it up, and
Yeah, but I did buy the Before Sunrise, Before Sunset screenplay book,
oh,
so I can read some stuff and take some notes on screenwriting, not screenplay writing. Oh my! Apparently, I'm a writer. I don't know.
well, it's I mean, this is great for studying like naturalistic dialogue that still remains true to the theme, doesn't strand too far from it.
Yeah. So that's our Before trilogy, man. That's it. What are your guys' thoughts on Before trilogy or Midnight in particular? Let us know in the comment section below. What's another trilogy we should do down the road? There's a couple of them that we could do.
Should we? Well, I always think, should we compare this with Boyhood? A singular movie that goes through about the same amount of time.
Yeah. Let us know if we should do that anytime soon. Just let us know. But next week, Joe, you don't know. This is gonna be a surprise for you. You don't know this one, but I already kind of picked next week's episode. It's so we're going with romance here, but we're gonna get some bleak stuff next week. I'm sorry, Joe. We're gonna do a recent release called Come and See from 1985. It's a war movie.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. So we're gonna do it next week. So there you go. So until next time, well, of course, share, subscribe, all that stuff. Yeah, there you go. Until next time, I'm Wade.
And I'm still Joe.
And we will see you Linklater.